Hi, welcome to Get Used to It. I'm Sheila Kuehl, and as always, I take you through this fascinating show. And today it truly is fascinating because we're talking about don't ask, don't tell. And it's very much in the news these days as the president indicates that he wants to do something about it. People in Congress talk about it. The LGBT community and our allies working very, very hard to make sure it stays on the front burner. And so I have three guests with some pretty direct experience with Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but also three activists in our community. And I'm very pleased to welcome Tom Carpenter, who is a former Marine captain and a board member of the Service Members Legal Defense Network. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Sheila. Good
and
to be here.
Julianne Sohn, my second guest, who is also a former Marine captain, a lot of Semper Fi going on here.
Yes, a lot of Semper Fi.
And currently an officer in the Los Angeles Police Department. And my third guest is Joseph Rocha, a Navy veteran, though he looks fairly young to be a veteran, but he is a Navy veteran, and now a student at the University of San Diego.
Thank you.
So Tom, let's start with you. Let's talk about a little bit about your experience with the military, what happened to you and what led you to want to do some work on behalf of other service members.
I was actually an Army brat, and much to my father's chagrin, decided to go to the Naval Academy. You can imagine the family uproar over that. Went to the Naval Academy, graduated, and then decided I wanted to go in the Marines. So I went in the Marines, went to infantry training, and then became a Marine pilot. I flew the A-4 Skyhawk, which is single pilot, single engine attack airplane. While I was on active duty, I fell in love with another Marine who was also a pilot. We tried to stay in the service. Both of us loved the Marine Corps.
Was this before Don't Ask, Don't
Yes,
Tell? Or?
this was in the mid-'70s.
Right.
And the policy back then was if they found out about you, they would discharge you, and you would receive usually a less than honorable discharge. We had a good friend of ours who was a major, had come back from Vietnam, highly decorated. He was a Mustang, came up through the ranks, had Silver Star, a couple Purple Hearts, and about a month before he was going to retire, they found out he was gay, and they threw him out. He got no benefits at all. He seemed old to me at the time. He was probably late 30s, early 40s, and we looked at each other and said, that could be us. And adding to that, there was this issue of integrity. And I think we all heard Admiral Mullen speak last week, and he kind of hit the ball out of the park as far as I was concerned, because he really said what the most important problem with this law is, and that is that it makes people live a lie. So we decided at that point we could no longer live the lie, and both of us left the Marines, went to law school, and became lawyers.
Well, it's interesting to me because no one in my immediate family was in the military. My dad was 4F, but all my cousins were Marines. And there's just this sort of ethic that is part of the training in all the branches, I think, about being forthright, being an honest person, being a good person, and also the sort of the ethic of taking care of each other and looking out for each other. And I think, like a lot of ethical systems, it's more honored in the breach sometimes, and certainly where we were concerned. But it must have been a disappointment too. I mean, you know how you'll be treated. How did you feel understanding that you were gay and yet you wanted to be a Marine?
Well, you hit an interesting point, and that's that each one of the services have core values, and they talk about them constantly. You're trained in them. Basic recruits learn about honor, integrity, courage. And at the academy, of course, we had an honor concept where you didn't lie or cheat or steal. So it was so imbued in you, and it really is such an essential part of anybody who's in the service to be honorable and to tell the truth. I mean, your word is your bond, and you have to put it in a practical reality when you talk to somebody and say, listen, we're going to do A, B, and C, and they believe you, and it involves people's lives. You have to tell the truth, and you have to be honest. So you were constantly in a tremendous personal conflict. And I think the options available were to give up a career that you were trained for or to live a lie. And it's going on today, and that's how I got involved in this fight After I left the service and became a lawyer, my partner died in 1992, and he was a wonderful man, but a conservative Republican, and he kept me very tightly in the closet, so to speak. And when he died, I kind of, as my friend said, knocked the door off its hinges and got involved with Service Members Legal Defense Network.
Now, tell us, because I'm not sure everyone watching always knows, what the organizations are. Tell us a little about it.
Well, let me back up for a second. My initial involvement in the movement was the Campaign for Military Service, which was, I think you knew Tom Stoddard.
Yes.
And Tom ran that, and that was in 1992 when President Clinton announced that he wanted to do away with the ban on gays and lesbians serving. And I went to Washington, and it's kind of interesting. Because I was appointed to the Naval Academy by Strom Thurmond, people said, well, you can go down and you can go talk to Strom Thurmond and his people.
About being gay.
About gays in the military. And so I went down to his office and paraded in, and there were these 3 Army colonels sitting there. And this young man from South Carolina, and I can't remember his name today, was with me. And we started to talk to these colonels, and it was real apparent to me that we were going to get nowhere. And lo and behold, one of those colonels was Joe Wilson. You lie, Wilson was one of the colonels. I didn't recognize that until I saw him on television. I said, I know this guy. That's the guy I met in 1992 who was advising Strom Thurmond on this issue. It kind of shows you where we were. So anyway, when we ended up with Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and that was kind of a debacle because Sam Nunn and it was very much against that, and it was kind of a kangaroo court. If you remember how they set it all up, and they had the panels that would show up that were against lifting the ban during the time when the radio and TV people were there, and all the folks that were in favor of open service were brought in when there were no media there. It was amazing to watch. But after that happened, some very wise people, Michelle Beneke and Dixon Osborne, 2 young lawyers, Michelle's a former Army officer, said, oh, we're going to end up with this Don't Ask, Don't Tell thing. It's a mess, and we have to be prepared to take care of folks that are brought in under that policy and suffer under it. So they set up Service Members Legal Defense Network, and they came to me in 1996 and said, would you like to be on the board? And I said, sure, that sounds like something worth doing.
So it's a national board, people in different cities
National
on the
board, right. We have about, I think we have 22 board members now, and when I joined the organization, I think our annual budget was about $300,000, and now it's, I think, $2.6 million. And the people have been just wonderful in supporting us. And we've helped 9,000 people in that period.
And is it legal work that is done?
Legal work, yeah. When people get picked up and have problems, they call us, and we either handle their cases ourselves or we get them referred to Military Defense Council based upon what the case is. And initially, that was our mission, and then about 4 or 5 years ago, we changed our strategic plan to include working on repeal.
So repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So there was a shift. We're still doing the legal work because that's our primary mission, because as you're going to find out, this stuff is still going on in spite of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and quote, the good intentions that people had back then. People are still being thrown out. So we've kind of still doing that mission, and now we're doing the mission of repeal, and we've been very involved with lobbying. I think this will be our 6th or 7th year of having lobbying days in Washington, D.C. That'll be March around our national dinner. And, that's where the action is right now. A very exciting time.